Hey, it's Simple from Navi, and you're listening TCR.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of The Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast, episode 198, coming to you live and or pre-recorded from an undisclosed location. The date, December 11th, 2019. The time, 9:01 p.m. Central Time. It's Thursday, meaning this will be the best episode ever, as we got new wave CSGO coming at you hard. New wave CSGO, new orgs coming in, new players, old orgs buying new teams. We're gonna sort it all out for you. And the hot topic going around right now, integrity in esports. Does it have a place? Do teams have it? Should we judge teams that don't? We'll discuss and tell you exactly what we think about it. But before we do, make sure you follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring. You can follow our Discord, which you can find on our Twitter bio. You can also go to our website, tcr.gg. And of course, if you're listening on iTunes, CastBox, any other podcast outlet out there that lets you review or leave a comment, always do so. We do read them. We do appreciate it. Helps the show grow from there. Let's introduce everyone. Hello, my name is Tim. I will be your captain for this journey into esports. And alongside me, as always, is my best friend, my brown friend, Sanuj. What's up?
New wave CSGO. That sounds trendy. It's like a trendy
that's what we do here.
right there. I like that.
That's what we do on TCR. We create trends. Don't be surprised if you see it elsewhere now.
I'm good. I'm just like ready for the holidays. You know, I get like 17 straight days off, which in my world feels like an eternity.
That's really weird that your job does that, by the way.
Yeah, they give us like 7, 8, 9, like 9 days of free PTO. Then you count the weekends, plus you count New Year's Eve or
Christmas.
New Year's, and then Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
So we get like all of that off consecutively, and it's like it's pretty much like 17 days. I added a day here, but
yeah, no, that's pretty sweet. That is a nice gig. That's a nice gig. So you will definitely get all the guests booked for us in that time.
Feeling festive for the show, feeling festive outside of the show. So yes, I will do my best to get. Who do we want? You tell me. Give me the name, Tim. Who do you want?
Nade Shot. Easy. He's a big fan of the show. Ooh. Nade Shot. I want you to get Hex, and then I want you to tell him no.
I can do that. Okay, that's easy.
I want you to ask him, say, hey, we would love to have you on the show. And he's like, yeah, I would love to. Say, psych, we don't want you on the show. We don't need you.
The TCR curse could affect Nade Shot also, though.
Yeah. You know, we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
The charity stream was good. It was good. Like, I appreciate him making an effort to release some of that optic guilt.
Like, in all honesty, if we ever did officially book Hex for the show, I would tell him, look, out of self-respect for the brand, I got to push you back one day. Like, I'm going to plan the day. It's going to be the day of, and then I'm just going to be like, hey, we got to do it tomorrow.
So
out of self-respect.
Book both days with him.
I'm going to control this. I'm going to control the situation. Just, out of respect for the brand here. That's really what it is. That's really what it is. Man, oh man, it's chilly outside. Anuj, you look nice and warm. What hoodie are you wearing? If you're watching it on stream.
Brand new, if you're watching the stream, I got my brand new alt hoodie in right now. It's the white hoodie, like black imprint on it. I love it. It's like incredibly, incredibly comfortable. This is not a sponsored ad.
It's like their scribbly line.
It just like feels really good, and it's got this awesome lining inside. Like
And how much was that hoodie? Was it $200, $300? It looks like a $500 hoodie.
So it was $5.99 originally. I got it on their Black Friday sale for like $30.
Unbelievable. Can you believe that, folks? A hoodie for $30.
Got like 95% discount. So it is really incredible. It's a piece of art, though.
Don't tell
this really feels like
Fnatic
a piece of art that I'm wearing. I like it.
Don't tell Fnatic that a hoodie can be $30 because they'd laugh at you. They say $30 times 4, maybe 120
Honestly,
bucks.
with it being like a pure white hoodie, I should have bought 2 when I messed this one up.
Oh, for me, a white hoodie would be done in an instant.
Like I'm already, I get nervous and I'm just sitting in my gaming chair.
Yeah, no, that hoodie would be a complete at-home hoodie. I would not wear it outside at all. But yeah, no. I'm also a pig, so my life is a mess. So I get used to it. I get used to it. Speaking of a mess, I felt like we were almost at a mess in CSGO, which kind of kick-started this whole conversation of integrity in esports. Didn't quite get there. I felt like conversations were civil for a little bit. But what started this whole conversation was last weekend at the ESL finals. I believe it was Astralis was the one playing it, and it was their fans that started this.
Astralis versus Mouse Sports.
Yeah, and this is not the first time that we've seen this happen, but apparently, and I didn't see this on stream, I wasn't watching it live.
I can set up the play that I was watching this one.
Okay, you were watching it then.
Yeah, so Zipnix was playing Connector, and he was playing as CT. This is Connector on Overpass, sorry, so he's underneath. Walking through the connector, and there's a boost spot. There's a little window up there by the door. For those of you that play Counter-Strike, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's the little window up top by the door and connector. They were double boosted. Mouse was double boosted looking in through that window. And as Zipnix is walking by that spot, he kind of peeks to it because it is a common boost spot. It's not like it's like never done. Fairly common boost spot, but it takes 2 players to do it. So he was walking up to it, peeked towards it, and then the audience reaction took place. And once the audience reaction took place, he knew that there was somebody in the boost because it was right when his crosshair looked up to that corner. So now what he called on the comms, we don't know. But the next thing that took place is one of his teammates then came into the connector stairs and looked immediately at that boost spot when he was coming down, which that's probably not the first angle that person is going to check coming out of that spot. So anyways, I mean, the assumption is he heard the crowd noise. You know, he admitted to being able to hear the crowd noise, and what effect it took on the play, we'll never know. 100% no.
Was it too? There was also like talk of like the fans giving away bomb sites, like which ones were being covered and which ones weren't. And that's not the first time it's happened. And
that happened with VP. I think that was like a Star Ladder Epicenter event
a couple years ago, though, right?
Yeah, and where the fans were literally yelling out A or yelling out B. They had
signs.
B.
They had signs that would say A or B, so that way, you know, if you were looking in the crowd, you would see it.
To me, though, these are 2 very different situations.
Yes.
Like they're not relatable.
No, and I think one's very obvious and which one isn't, right? So this is what I wanted to discuss today. I wanted to take this weekend, right, because a lot of players have kind of been outspoken saying, look, these are a few tricks that we use if we're playing in an open air arena, meaning like not in a soundproof box or anything like that. And even if they were in a soundproof box, right? Like little tips and tricks that some of these pros will use. And it seems like some pros are okay with it. Some are very against it. Seems like people in the community are kind of down the line. So I'm curious to see what you have to say, Anuj, on this. But I think the age-old argument is, why aren't there soundproof booths?
That's kind of the easiest. That almost seems like the consensus to me, though, really. I haven't seen too many people that are against the interaction in the sense of like, okay, there was some talks of, hey, maybe the crowd shouldn't be allowed to cheer until after a round is over. To me, that's
good luck.
A horrendous idea. Well, that's not even, but that takes away the fan experience, right? What's the point of playing a LAN if you take away the, you know, the live, like, so for example, even you think of it in football and a fake play is taking place, right? Maybe the players that are running back on a punt return don't see that the kicker has taken off with the ball, right? But they hear the loud roar and they know to turn around.
Like,
Or when a
it's not
player's running down the
tennis.
field, well, you see it all the time. Like in football, players running down the field, they look up at the stadium
Right.
cam and they can see where the guy is behind him.
But
You
I'm just
don't
saying, like,
take
tennis is a sport where, and I love tennis. I'm not knocking tennis here, but I'm just saying, in play, you stay quiet, right? Like, it's very frowned upon to be cheering while play is going on. And in fact, some tournaments will
well,
straight up kick you out. But
well, like a golf tournament, you don't yell on the backswing or something,
yeah,
But that's like a gentleman's sport, right?
yeah.
Like that's what that is. That's an old school thought that's carried over as part of the game. Like that's part of the game that you're not yelling when they're playing tennis. That's a part of the game where you do not yell on somebody's backswing or their shot or their putt while they're in the middle of the putt. This to me is just more the audience reacting to a hype situation that's going on. And that's what it's meant to do. That's what the game brings out in people is that type of emotion. And so that was the one idea that when I read that, I was like, that's terrible. Like that would never happen or never
Yeah.
should happen. The most suggested idea, however, is obviously the soundproof boots. Now Zipnix, came out and he had a long twit longer that kind of dove into this issue in particular. For him, he also agreed, obviously, you don't want to take the crowd out of the um, scenario here, but the soundproof boots would be a great alternate idea. The issues that seem to come up with this, obviously logistics. Having to build a high-end soundproof boot is very expensive. Having to build one that you can travel around from event to event is even more expensive.
Because
Then
people don't
depending,
understand too, like with those, it's not just a booth, right? A soundproof booth, a true soundproof booth. They're not the cheapest thing. Like, it's like creating like a little studio, right? They're
yeah,
not cheap. They're not easy. They also have to be ventilated. And a
it
lot of
gets
times if you
hot.
see them, like they do have like their own little AC unit that feeds into it because obviously you have like 6, 7 guys in there, right? It's going to get toasty with PCs. Another issue, and this is like I know for 100% because I've asked tournament organizers, like, why don't you do soundproof booths? And they say a lot of times it's because the fire code, like
Yeah,
that particular building's fire code or the fire marshal who's in charge of inspecting the event won't allow it because they feel like they're death traps, right? You have guys with PCs and electric equipment in a closed off tiny booth. A lot of buildings don't even allow for it.
no, and that makes sense, and that's where they are paid to be more creative than we are, right? Like there's got to be solutions that are similar, um, that they're able to do. And again, I can't think of many more obvious answers besides the soundproof booth. I mean, that's the one that kind of comes to mind. But there was that issue that we brought up before the show, just a couple years ago, depending on how it was set up. You said like, what was the situation with Simple, the
Yeah, so
reflection?
this is like where I guess you can come into like the players discussion now, right? Because obviously you've seen teams do cheeky things that later get their hand slapped for. The first one comes to mind is Fnatic, pixel walking, right? Do you remember when that was a thing?
Yeah,
Pixel
yeah.
walking, and Fnatic was like one of the first teams to use it in an actual match, and that was a hot topic, right? Like, hey, almost
Now
like a
that
gentleman's
match,
agreement.
they ended up forfeiting that match after the game. Although during the game, the you're talking about the Fnatic boost on
Yeah.
Overpass?
Yep.
Yeah, so that happened at during the game when that took place, they were down by a lot and made the comeback
And
because
pretty
of
much
that.
what it was, it's like an invisible pixel that allowed you to jump on a wall and almost looks like you're floating, which is why it's called pixel walking, because it's got to be a pixel perfect position to do this. And the controversy there was obviously should it be the jump glitch or whatever it was on
Oh yeah.
Inferno, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
another one where teams used it, some teams didn't, right? Like controversial there. What Anuj was just bringing up with the soundproof booths, where it kind of went the opposite way, where the player actually admitted to it and stopped the match down, was Simple. And I forget what event it was, but it was he could see the reflection of the screens above them in the glass of the soundproof booth. And he was like, yo, I see everything that's going on right now. I see the map on this monitor here. And so he stopped it. It went like 2 maps, and then he realized it, and so he called the admin over. They had to adjust something. I have no idea what they adjusted, right? But they fixed it and moved on. But that's an example of, a player having integrity and realizing, like, I could have completely cheated this system out. I could have cheesed it the whole time. And I think that's where, when you look at Rop's tweets or someone other's tweets here, where that line can get blurry. Like, Rop's tweeted out saying that, even with the soundproof booth, you can hear that vibration. You can feel it if there's like a grenade or something like that.
Yeah, I have his tweet up here. He said you can play clutches on the crowd. You can scan walls on the crowd. Hell, you can even throw grenades like HEs and flashes because the sound from the stage is loud enough that you'll hear it if they explode, which instantly means there's an enemy near you. And so, and he goes, these are just tricks that he's, learned in particular, shocks and config. Config mentioned this in his interview, regarding shocks and himself. He's like, man, yeah, we literally aim at different spots on the wall and we get crowd intel because they're spammable spots. So it's not like they're just sitting there aiming and hoping the crowd gives them some sort of,
Right.
it's like, it's a spammable spot where the audience knows if he shoots here, they'll kill him, right? So there's the buildup starts happening and the audience starts reacting. And so he's like, man, I'll spam different spots just to get a reaction out of the crowd. And I know where they're at.
The other one that comes to mind too was Nothing. When he used to play, and this was way back in the day when you'd go to events and actually play people, facing them, right? Like a true LAN party type style
Yeah.
events. And he said his oldest trick in the book was he would flash people. And as he threw a flash, he would kind of peek between the monitors, right? And look at their faces. And if their face lit up, then he knew the flash hit them, right? And he knew that they were around the corner.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's where I could.
That's kind of crossing the line. I feel like a little bit there. That's a little unique way of using. Again, I don't think like using
Like
the
crowds
crowd and all
holding up signs showing A or yelling A site, B site, whatever. Like, obviously a no-go, right? Like, you shouldn't do that. And I would almost say, like, as a player, you'd stop the match down and say, like, give me a mic, I gotta talk to the crowd, or do something, right? Because it's kind of, and even then, like, you're not, as a player, I don't think you're asking the crowd to do that, right? But it's kind of
No,
looks bad on you, right? If VP has fans in the crowd showing up A site signs, like, as a player, do you really want to deal with that? Even if you never look in the crowd, which we've come to learn that they do, right? You don't want to deal with that the whole time.
No, 100%. Even like I don't, I want to be clear. I don't want them using crowd environment for help either, though. So I do want a solution around it, right? So I'm okay.
Yeah, it would
with
completely change the way we watch the game. But what if in stadium, right? Maybe online they could still do this, but in stadium they just didn't use X-ray, which is where you can see the outlines of the
I
players
know
for
you're talking
spectator
about.
mode. It would suck.
No,
It would suck.
I don't
But
like that because that's really important. I feel
well, yeah, for
for
our
people that are
angle,
for well,
even for
for our
casting.
benefit, but like for like yeah, for casting, for our benefit, for even a casual fan's benefit, I think it's like really beneficial so you can understand why the player is making the movement or maybe why like oh man, why is he holding this angle for so long? Well, if he moves a half an inch to the left, it's because the other guy is holding like a direct
Right.
angle on him, and that
What
type of
if we
stuff
ever
is
see a
like
time where the players don't play on a stage?
so I liked Config's idea. I think one of the better ideas was with the soundproof booth, and then they use a one-way mirror
Yeah.
where we can see them, but the players then cannot see out to the crowd. And then I know, that also had a little bit of pushback in certain areas or groups where they were like, well, that then takes away the
Kind of
ability
kills
for
the
the
vibe.
player to get hyped up if
Right.
he can't see the crowd. But I'm like, no, like they're focused on the game anyway. Like they will have a moment to like celebrate if they win this match. You're going to come out on the stage and you're going to celebrate with your fans. Trust me, they know that there's 20,000 people on the other side of the window watching them too. It's not like
Right.
because they can't see out, all of a sudden they forget they're on stage. they're very much aware of their surroundings, you know? So, I kind of like that idea the best. But again, it comes down to the logistics and everything else, fire code and things of that sort. But there does need to be a push to find a solution. It doesn't have to be immediate. Like you can use some of these half-ass soundproof boots for now. Um, maybe spend a little bit more on the soundproof headsets that you're giving them. Like there's cheaper alternatives that they can use to kind of help alleviate some of it. But you do hate to see it because there is going to be more of a home field advantage than at some of these
Well, and that's
events.
the thing, right? Like, I, it's fun to have that rowdy fan interaction and everything like that. But until we start seeing more home games, like think of like with Overwatch or Call of Duty going into their franchise part, and you have actual home games with home fans. This is all fun and games until it really affects a match, right?
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
last thing you want is to feel like one fan base is more like, I don't want to say cheating, but helping more. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, I think of it would be like in football. If like, yeah, one side can be louder than the other. Like if you're at home, obviously you're going to be louder for the defense or the offense, so they can't communicate and things like that. You're going to be louder for when the opposing team's pitcher is pitching, right? Because you want to maybe throw him off his game and be extra
Yeah.
loud or something like that. But what you don't want are fans to do laser pointers or something like that. And I think that's where you kind of have to draw the line of, you can be loud, you can be rowdy. You don't need to yell bomb sites or, and again, I don't know how the hell you would police this because I do the same thing. I mean, a Nuge has sat next to me at these events. I'm like smacking his arm, pushing him anytime something clutch is about to happen. So I don't know how you police.
You can't police that in my mind.
It's a
That's
natural
not
thing. Like if I see
that is-
someone's crosshair go over someone in a smoke, I'm naturally freaking out.
You're going to get excited. You're going to show emotion. That will never go. So that's why it's up to them to figure it out from a player solution standpoint of what can we do to prevent them from hearing this noise or being alerted to something, because I never want to see the audience die down from showing true emotion in those situations. Like that's, imagine watching a Counter-Strike tournament in Australia and you tell those fans,
Hey,
hey,
keep it down.
keep it down during the match if you
What
don't mind. Like,
if-
such a bad look, and it's like not meant to
It
be
would
that
look
way.
ridiculous on stage. I think it would look ridiculous. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe it's just something we would get used to if you turn the players around.
Yeah.
I mean, would that be that terrible? You turn them around. They would still
It
hear, but if you
doesn't
do
matter
soundproof.
To me, if you did that, like I think that's a fine. Like I said, it's something you don't see the players' faces anyway because the monitor's blocking them when they are facing
Right.
you. But then, yeah, I mean, it's depending. I guess it all depends on how the stage is set up. Because if the monitor's in the very back, then you can't obviously turn them that way. But a stadium like Esports Stadium in Arlington is kind of built perfectly to allow people to do that. But yeah, I mean, I just think, I mean, instead of turning them around, you could just, it's probably easier to put something up
Right.
high enough to where they just can't see the fans.
Yeah, I think also too, like when you just think of integrity in esports, it always comes back to, and you really don't see this in a whole lot of other esports. I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong, but with Call of Duty and Gentleman's Agreement, right? We're looking at Call of Duty League almost starting up here in a month or so. Right now, there's a rule set. There's already plenty of Gentleman's Agreement out there. I mean, hell, half the time we're playing with some listeners, and they know more than we do when it comes to this stuff off the top of their head. And we're like, hey, is this allowed? And like every time we ask the question, the response is, yeah, but
it's not.
it's kind of frowned upon if you use it. I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm going to use it then. Right? Like me, and this is kind of where maybe I'm pot calling the kettle black a little bit, right? But for me, like, yeah, I don't think fans should be giving away information to the players, right? Think it's bad integrity. But I'm also the same guy who says, if you make a gentleman's agreement, then I think you're an idiot, right? The devs are the ones making the rule set. If everyone has an agreement that this gun is overpowered, you need to go to the devs and say, hey, the players took a vote. The Players Association took a vote. We think this gun should be banned. everyone's okay with it, officially ban it. And then that way you don't run into a situation like last year with Clayster. Was it last year?
Yeah.
Or was that World War II? Either way, one
Yeah.
year,
I
they
I
all
think it might have
seem
actually been
they all
World War
seem to be
II.
running it together, but I think it was World War II. Man, that doesn't seem like that long ago. I digress. Clayster picks up a rifle when they were losing and comes back with it, right? They win the match because he used this rifle that was always kind of understood as a gentleman's agreement. Don't use it, it's overpowered. And I just feel like in that situation, bro, if it's not officially banned, if it's allowed in the game, we should be able to use it. Now, that doesn't mean, just like with the crowd noise, I think at the moment, dude, if you're not going to not hear a grenade, right? If you throw a grenade and then you hear it go off louder, then you know someone's around the corner. You're not going to throw a grenade and then like not listen, right? So obviously use it for your advantage while the fix isn't there. Just like a
Yeah.
gentleman's agreement.
No, I also agree with that sentiment. Like for now, the way it's set up, they should all be using any advantage that they're able to get because it's happening somewhere,
Right.
right? Like somebody's doing it. You can't prevent it.
If the
Like it's
other
not
team is using the
preventable.
crowd to know if someone's at a boost and you're not, that's your own problem.
Yeah. And then you talk about like, they're using like vibrations on this stage, was brought up that the nades going off would make certain vibrations and they could even tell. What if we just like suspended them in like midair
I'm bungees.
and put cages around them, put a black curtain over it, and had them like 15 feet off the stage on bungees that no
In
vibration
soundproof
bungees
booths.
in soundproof booths
With
and put a
white
fire
noise playing on in the background.
and light a fire on the stage underneath them so they can't escape.
I've always heard too that that's what they do too. Is I don't think every tournament organizer does this, but some will do it to where the two headphones, right? And then they'll put white noise through the bigger set, and then all the in-game is in the little set that's in your ear. I hear that's also how it's done.
And I'm surprised they can hear through some of those headphones with like the dual sound. If you're able to hear through that, it's like didn't realize how
Well,
loud it's actually getting.
That's why they all have hearing problems, right? Because they're probably just jacking. If I was a player, I personally would want a soundproof booth just so I wouldn't have to turn my headphones up. Hell, even when we go to DreamHack and I come back, that Sunday night, I can't hear anything. And my headphones are 100% blast. And I'm like, dear God, did I just play an entire weekend with my headphones at 100%? I'm going to go deaf.
Even that 1 year DreamHack where they had the volume blasting.
Oh my God, the music was right next to the computers.
Think about how loud it was with us wearing our our gaming headsets. They're not like bad headsets by any means. But we could clearly hear all the music that was playing like 50 yards away from us.
Yeah.
It was like felt like it was right on top of us. So yeah, again, hopefully they come up with a solution for it. It is important. I think it's also important that everybody kind of understands that the players are going to take advantage of the situation while it's available to them. And there's really not many reasons not to. I think, some of the instances we're talking about simple because he could see the reflection. That's a very different scenario, right? He could clearly see the other team's screen. So that we obviously appreciate, him not letting that get any further. Pixel boosting.
People
again,
showing what bomb site, like that's not a natural reaction, right? If it's outside of the natural order of play, I think that's kind of where you draw the line, right?
You mean holding up bomb site A is a little too far?
That's not natural.
That's like crossing the line?
Maybe if you just all of a sudden stood up and started doing like the YMCA, maybe I could buy it. Maybe you could do that. But no.
We should take a whiteboard to the next event and like write down like how much money the team has remaining after buys and stuff, or write like 2 times and then like have an AK sign and 1 time SMG, 1 like this. Just tell them exactly what they're buying each round.
And then we could put a little TCR sponsor at the bottom. Sponsored by TCR.
TCR.gg.
No, so, I think we've both made our point here where, outside the natural reaction of play is like as a fan where I think the line should be drawn. As far as a player goes, I mean, yeah, take advantage of what you can at the moment because the other guys are.
Yeah.
Like, So you have to do that.
And they're almost unavoidable situations. Like, it's not like I
Yeah.
think they're doing it because they want to cheat. It's just
You throw a
shit.
flash
Like,
and you see 20,000 faces in front of you all of a sudden light up. You think someone just turned on the lights in the stadium? Like, no, it's because they got hit with the flash and the
yeah.
spectator was on the guy with the flash grenade. Like, come on now. We know how it goes. But, you know, the funny thing is this conversation comes up once a year, and maybe with permanent positions for Overwatch and Call of Duty, you might see some more things being there. But for these traveling road shows and esports, you're not going to see it. You rarely
No.
see soundproof booths just for your any average weekend tournament. You'll see them for like TIs and huge events, right? But for your normal run-of-the-mill tournament, like DreamHack is not posting up a soundproof booth. It's just not going to happen.
No, and this is more likely to see stuff like this where we have these home and home setups, right? Where they can make a built
Yeah.
structure and keep it there. And so, yeah, maybe they got to figure out an easier option. This is easy for the franchising model. This is not so easy for the CSGO model, unfortunately.
No, absolutely not. But speaking of that CSGO model, I want to briefly talk about this new wave of CSGO that's happening right before our very eyes, Anuj, because there's been plenty of news breaking. We've talked a little bit about it on this show. I think it all started with the rumor that OG was coming over to CSGO, a historically dominant Dota esports org, finally branching out, going to CSGO. That rumor was there for a while. All of a sudden, 100 Thieves said, "What's up? We're in this party now," buying out the Renegades roster. So instantly, you're taking a top, like, these aren't just like little orgs coming in, right? OG is huge. 100 Thieves are massive. And then we're even seeing teams that have been around.
Gen G.
Gen G is huge. They just
Yeah.
won the PUBG World Final thing, whatever you call it. So you have big orgs coming into play, and then you even have like staples, like Complexity reworking it, right? Bringing in fresh faces. Cloud9 buying out rosters, as the rumor is today that they're going to be buying out ATK, right? So I don't know. It's kind of an exciting, mysterious time right now for the CSGO landscape.
It's funny because, like, we've spoken about this almost the polar opposite, maybe not more than like 20 plus episodes ago, where we were like, hey, CS is tough to get into. This is not the time. It's like, not if you're gonna join an esport, like, why join Counter-Strike, right? Like, it's inflated salaries. It's almost like MLB, where you pay whatever you're willing to pay for somebody, right? There's no cap structure in that sense. It really is kind of like the Wild Wild West when it comes to free agency, like the money rumors, buyout contracts. It's insanely priced. So we were discussing it, and it was, hey, tough to get into. Like, it's probably not the best investment for a lot of organizations to hop into. Now, what's important about this and what you're saying is look at the teams that are entering, right? These
That's
are
what I
all
was about
big
to
boys.
say.
They all have
They're
a
not
lot
buying
of
AAA
money.
teams here, right? We
Yeah,
don't have the
they're
Frisco
AAA
Rough
orgs,
Riders
right?
jumping in.
Yeah, you don't have people on food stamps trying to get in here and pick
No.
up teams. Like,
No.
these
There's
are
a reason these teams can buy into Counter-Strike, because the thing is they're buying into top 20 teams, right? They're not trying to say, like, man, I'm going to start an esports org and I'm going to get a Counter-Strike team and we're going to move up together. We're going to do Mountain Dew League and we're going to do ESEA, and by golly, we're going to be pro. No, because by the time your team even sniffs top 20, one of these orgs are coming to buy your players from you.
quickly.
Like, hands down. And if you don't sell it, right? If you don't sell that org, or if you don't sell that roster to that org, you're just going to lose them when contract time is up, which is exactly why Renegades sold the team to 100 Thieves originally, because they couldn't afford those rosters. I mean, Renegades was moving into a top 10 roster spot on a regular basis. They weren't going to be able to afford those
They just
players.
bought Greyhound Gaming because that was more in their
Reasonable. Well, that was
reasonable price range,
it's
right?
what Renegades
And
were before they were Renegades, right?
100 Thieves, right? And so,
Right.
yeah, I mean, like, yeah, again, you look at the names that have come in. It took OG 2 TI wins to decide to jump into Counter Strike. Gen G is China money, so hey, that explains that.
Yep.
And 100 Thieves have some of the biggest names and branding, in all of esports, right? And they're hardly an esports organization, um, but they have the money flow, right? And so they can do things like that. So the teams that are coming in, I'm really excited about them. I mean, I really am. I think it's nice to have some fresh teams. I think last year we didn't really have too many entries into the CS:GO world. We had like what Vitality felt like a new entry, I guess. I don't know if they were really around. Um, much before that, obviously, we had Evil Geniuses re-enter the scene, which was a long time name. Ents, kind of another one, right? That was like, hey, they were there for a while, then they were kind of
Right.
irrelevant. And these are teams that are just like in the top 15. Even Furia, they were not really much of anything just a couple years ago. So we've seen a lot of new names. I think a lot of what those are, though, are organizations that did it the right way, and I put that in air quotes here on stream. They picked up players and kind of grew with rosters, right? You think of Crazy, you think of even ATK, who we'll talk about. These guys kind of let their team grow. These teams are coming in and buying top tier talents, building international rosters, and seeing if they can make it work. With 100 Thieves being the exception because it was kind of a pre-built roster. But I want to talk about OG first because to me, Tim, that roster has the most potential. I think of any of the newly formed rosters or even some of the potential rumored rosters that are out there. I know a lot of this was on Alexi B and NBK's shoulders, putting this roster together. There was that it came out that Complexity offered Alexi B, I think $1 million for a
Yeah.
2-year
I think that was a
contract.
rumor, like a million plus or a
And
million, something like that.
and he turned it down because he was in talks with NBK about creating this international team. And I do know that Ents, um, the whole deal with Ents has to bother him quite a bit. It had to come as quite a shock at the very least, because that was a team through all of our eyes that overperformed. They were playing way better than anybody expected them to play in a lot of these tournaments, getting second at the major. Then obviously in his last tournament, they went 3-0 in the group stage to get another legend status, getting eliminated by 100 Thieves now. Um, but that roster to me has a little bit of everything, Tim. I mean, I kind of have it here and just looking at what they've put together. Obviously, you have Alexi B, who I think if they allow him to be in that shot caller role, um, is going to be amazing for him. Like, I really think that has potential to be something special there. You have NBK's leadership, a veteran player. What his resume is. It kind of speaks for itself. One of the most well-known and best top-tier players, ever to play in Counter-Strike Go.
Mhm.
Um, Valde, we were talking about Valde like he was a superstar not that long ago when he was playing kind of at the top of his game and leading North. And, this is when North was doing pretty well. He was the star player there. And so I think the combination of just those three alone gives you a lot of firepower, gives you a lot of smarts. I think there's a lot of knowledge there on that team to really push through. I think for them, the Achilles heel could be the Opper Mantu. He is like played in the German leagues, kind of grew through the German leagues, was really not playing Counter-Strike too much until like late 2016. So he's a little bit fresher, younger, and he'll be the one that has to hold his own on this roster. But I'm excited for them this weekend. We're all going to get a chance to watch them this weekend at Summit. And they kind of jump right into it. Their first match is against Mouse Sports on Thursday. So we're going to get to see them against a team that's coming off of probably their greatest achievement. Now, Woxic will not be attending this
That's
tournament, I
right,
don't
because
believe.
visa issues. So they
And
have Nato filling in.
so that's still a good lineup, right? Without Woxic, obviously that hurts, but still a good lineup, a good team to play against. You're going to see them against G2 the next day, then MIBR. So they'll have some tough matches coming up at the summit where well, get to see what they've been working on, how that boot camp has been going, like get to see the product out there because this has been teased for so long. And so definitely the roster I'm most excited about.
I also think it's just a good event to get your feet wet, right? You're with MIBR, who recently just made a roster change themselves. So as we just said, Mouse isn't going to have people there. Furia, I mean, people don't even know what they've been up to since DreamHack Dallas, right? When they signed those big contracts afterwards, and kind of fell off in the sense of their projected route. Not saying they
Yeah.
fell off completely, but from what they were projected
The
to go.
direction they were heading, it slowed down for sure.
Yeah.
They had a really good run there when we had the AUG meta was going on because a lot of their players were superior with that gun. I think after that meta kind of died off a little bit, they teetered off a bit. Like they've been inconsistent, right? They still won some really big games and had some impressive wins. At the same time, they've lost a lot of matches where you're like, wow, they just locked these guys in for 5 years. Like, it'd
Yeah.
be a tough pill to swallow.
And one thing too that we didn't even mention too, with all these orgs, right, getting into Counter-Strike, our listener Tavik, right, huge COD fan, we play COD with him from time to time, said like this brought him in, like the 100 Thieves getting into Counter-Strike was something that brought him into it. And that's absolutely right. And it's kind of the perfect time, right? You kind of have this perfect storm of some of these orgs that had huge followings behind them didn't get a CDL team, so you have a lot of abandoned fans now thinking, what am I supposed to do, right? Like I'm a 100 Thieves fan. I was bred to hate Optic and Envy and FaZe, right? I can't go and like any of those teams in CDL. I gotta root for Minnesota now, right? And well, see how 100 Thieves announced a CSGO team. And they're like, hey, I'm going to go watch some CSGO then, right? Because they're just a fan of the brand. So I think it's huge for something like this, for these new brands getting into CSGO.
So how do you feel about an old brand, and let's use
All
Cloud9
brown.
as an old brand, and buying out an active roster, right? So let's think Cloud9. Let's just say the ATK
Yeah.
deal goes through. How do you feel about that as a fan, knowing that you just bought a team? Now, maybe you even think of it as a better team. So it's unfortunate that maybe ATK is a rumored team because I know there's hype around them. I'm one of those that'll tell you right now that experiment's not going to work. They're not going to be a top 10 team.
Thank you.
That's not going to last.
I thought I was taking crazy pills here, Anuj. Maybe I was watching it with my Cloud9 shade glasses on, but I'm looking at Reddit and Twitter, and everyone's like, hell yeah, Cloud9 is back. And I'm like, whoa, people, are we excited about them buying the 19th best team in the world? Like, yeah, they've had a couple good events,
just
but
looking at their matches, right? They've won a couple of decent matches here and there, but anytime they've really played a very good team, they've lost. It hasn't been overly like Mouse Sports, Mouse Sports again. I'm just kind of looking through this. Renegades, Liquid, MIBR, like their wins are not against those teams. Liquid again here. They beat Complexity, but before Complexity made the roster change, they did have one decent win, and that was against G2 recently, where they beat them 2-1. That was probably their best win, and that was in the Pro League finals. But other than that, I'm a little confused where the excitement comes in for this roster. If
I want to get back to your original question here of how I feel about when old orgs like Cloud9 or what's another org that did it?
Well, 100 Thieves just bought that, but they weren't a team before.
Yeah,
so
they weren't.
That's a
team,
different.
They were getting into it, right? And I think if you're getting into the scene, that's how we just said. That's how you do it, right? If you are getting into the scene, you don't want to buy a cheap team and then say you're going to work with it going forward. You want to come in and hit hard right off the bat.
I can't think of an example right now of an existing org just buying out because I'm thinking of several other ones that are coming to mind. I think of
Renegades, right? Buying out Greyhounds.
Yeah.
That was so quick. It doesn't feel that way.
I think the Aussie scene is just happy that they got a team to root for over there more than anything. Cause I think the Aussie scene probably rooted for both of those teams to do well.
Yeah,
Like
they
I
just wanted to
feel
see either one do well, and
yeah, like, hey, one of y'all, because Dick Stacy and these guys are likable characters on those teams, and there's good personalities on both sides. So, I think they're probably just more happy that they have a Aussie team to root for. But the Cloud9 one to me, that's a little
well, it's to like the way it went, right? Like Cloud9, you're talking about this isn't just an old Oregon Counter Strike. You're talking about Cloud9. What were they on that list when we did the Forbes most valuable orgs? They were like
like
one or two.
top five. They were high,
Yeah,
yeah.
they were. I mean, you're talking about one
I
of the
think they
most.
were tied for one, weren't they, with TSM or something?
I think something like that. They were high up on that list. So you're talking about the most valuable. We'll say for the sake of the conversation, most valuable team, the org in esports right now. You went from winning the Boston Major. I don't care what people say about, well, they weren't really a favorite there. It was a shock. It was a Cinderella story, the run of a lifetime. They won the major, right? They were on top of Counter-Strike for that little bit. And even before that, I mean, they were like a top 10 team, you know? So
They
it's
were
not like
always
they,
a good
it
team,
was a
right? They were
good
never
team.
like
Look
a
at the
bad
players on
team.
that team. They're
Yeah.
some of the best, when you're talking about the conversation. And then it all falls apart. We talked about it last week. It just seemed like they just stopped caring about Counter-Strike in general once Overwatch League picked up, and it's just saw success elsewhere. Just never really seemed to be into it as much. Could be because the players wanted off the team, whatever. But then the rumor is that they're going to be bought out by Gen G. What's going to happen? Well, then they went on Reddit and said, we're staying. That's it. They just, we're staying, drop the mic, walk away. And then everyone's hype train got all excited, right? Everyone's like, oh, what is this going to mean? What's going to happen? Cloud9, they're staying in CSGO. And then you come out saying, we're going to pick up the ATK roster.
Like that's the excitement.
That's what I'm getting excited for. That's where I have an issue. And again, you want to buy Renegades out? Sure, they're a top 10 roster. They're probably going to float around there, right? And we've seen, like, 100 Thieves is still playing really well. Attack isn't like, or is that what they stand for? Attack?
Let's just go with ATK.
ATK, just to be safe here. ATK, they kind of came out of nowhere recently. They're not really, like, projected to be top. Like, do you see them jumping over some of these teams to be where Cloud9 would want to be? No.
They want the Pro League spot, so that's one thing for it.
All right, that's what Envy
But-
did. Where are they at?
Not very far, and we'll get to them in a minute. But with Cloud9, Cloud9 should have bought a player off of the team. If there's somebody that they wanted on the team, Floppy, for example, if they wanted Floppy, go buy out his freaking contract. Get him and build with other players. Go find out, hey, Wardell, what are you doing, bud? You're just sitting there. Like, get on a roster, start playing some competitive Counter-Strike.
You find your core players and you build around the core. You don't want Counter-Strike. I don't think works if you build around one player. You have to have that core. And for people on Reddit and Twitter saying, "Oh, it's great. They're not just buying free agents, free rejects anymore. Man, this is great. They're just getting in there with a team." You're an idiot. You're an idiot. Let me tell you about this little team that signed some free agents. They're called Astralis. Okay? They signed Glaive and Magisk. How'd that work out for them? Oh, that's right. They're like the number one team in the world for the last 2 years.
Yeah, they didn't say, hey, you know what, Device, I'm sorry. This is not working out. We're going to go ahead and sell you off, and we're just going to go buy some mid-tier roster and hope they get better. And I feel like that's what Cloud9 just did with Automatic, in my opinion. Like, if you really want my true opinion on this, I think selling off Automatic was a horrendous move. I don't give two shits about Daps and Kusta leaving. I really don't. I never thought that roster, and I said this like from the start, I never thought Daps and Kusta were like great pickups. I thought Kusta was okay. I think Daps is highly overrated from just a skill standpoint. I understand the guy's got a brilliant mind when it comes to Counter-Strike and understands the game really well. You got to be a fragger or two at the end of the day, though, nowadays in Counter-Strike. Like, I don't feel like his poor fragging ability was enough to overcome, or like his knowledge of the game was enough to overcome his lack of ability to frag. And so I think they should have kept Automatic. They have Mixwell still. And then, hey, go pick up Floppy from ATK if that's who you want. Go find another guy or two that's available or buy out a contract. Like you said, that you have 400 million, your estimated valuation is $400 million. Go get another seed round in.
If Cloud9
Spend
really
some
wanted to,
money.
they could have just thrown the checkbook at someone, which I kind of feel like they should have done that if this was the alternate route, right? Another team
Yeah.
that went ahead and signed a free agent or went out and bought someone. Liquid with Stewie. So I'm sorry, but where is this not connecting?
And that's a team, Tim, that went and did that when they were pretty much at the top, right? Like Liquid
They
was
were already a top five
roster
team when they got
and
Stewie.
doing amazing, and they could have just been at that point. Liquid's ownership could have sat there, man, we got a top 5 team. Why do I need to go spend $500,000 or $1 million and get Stewie and then have to pay him a salary? Like, why do we want to do? You know why they want to do that? It's because they want to be the best freaking team in Counter Strike. That's why they did that.
They don't just want a team. There's a difference, and I think people need to realize this. I'm fired up, Anuj. I'm fired up. There's a
I love
difference
it.
of
Give it a go.
wanting a team in Counter-Strike and wanting a top team in Counter-Strike. Right now, I'm getting the vibe from Cloud9 that they just want a team in Counter-Strike. They want to still be a part of the party. They don't want to be one of the best, though.
Well, that's how I feel about Envy's roster. For like the last year, like that Envy just wants to be a part of Counter Strike.
Well, it's like they just want the Pro League. Just keep us in the Pro League, right? We want to have whatever that gets
Like give
us.
our fans something to cheer for, or have a team to cheer for. Because I don't think Envy has shown that they went out and got Nifty. And that really was like a wow move for me. That was a move that I wanted to see Cloud9 make. And I'm just as happy that Envious, in terms of success, I want Envious to be highly successful. I love having them in Counter Strike. But like to see them just be there and be so irrelevant, it's almost like, okay, don't have a team right now. Like I'm better off without you having a team than putting a poor product out there. And so, this may be a good time just to hop into Envious's lineup a little bit. Is like, they recently lost Som, right? I think Som is who just
Well,
went
he's
over
going to Gen G now.
Yeah, they just moved him over to Gen G, so they're without a fifth. And so you kind of wonder, like, Envy's a team that's been hanging around here a little bit. They signed Nifty, and it's almost like I feel like he's in the automatic situation, right? Like, I feel like he could be a star player. Tim has shown himself to be a star player, automatic.
Thank you.
I think Nifty could be a star player, but he's in a situation where he has no like high end tier 1 top tier talent around him, right? Android's not bad, Fugly's not bad. Ryan is a young player, but again, it's one of those rosters that I don't think will ever accomplish anything in Counter Strike. They might win a dream hack and not like the dream hack event. It's not gonna be a Masters tournament that
Right.
they're winning. And so for them, it's like they're kind of that same thing with Som going over to Gen G. That gives Gen G now a core of who? Daps, Automatic, Kusta, Som, and then I think who do they have subbing with them? Is it Sick? I think Sick is their fifth as a potential. He's like not a permanent player on the
But
roster.
he's just filling in, right? Because with Som
Yeah, he's filling
leaving,
in.
they don't technically have a fifth.
So I'm more intrigued with Automatic and Som on this roster, but even for Gen G, like I was a little surprised. I wonder what they paid for this, right? Like the team that you just got, you just saw them floundering pretty hard on Cloud9. This is why Cloud9 is willing to part with the players because of the poor performances that they've had, right?
Yeah.
Som, not a bad addition. It keeps them relatively young. And then we'll see
But
what
again,
they do with the
for a
fifth. But
brand new org coming into Counter Strike. Brand new.
it's a different feel for them, right? Like they can take this team and be in the top 30-ish, top 25 maybe. And you're like, okay, it's a good entry point for this roster, right? Like you made your wave, you got into CS, you have a competitive team, that's great. It's just not what we expect for a team like Cloud9. And personally, I would have higher expectations for Gen G if we're talking a year or two from now, right? Like I don't think Gen G being a top 50 team is good enough for that particular organization. But I think as an entry point, it is. Like it's not a bad
Right.
start.
I
There's
think
rumors
too.
that Bintet is a possible fifth for them that came out today, which Bintet coming from Tai Lu. Interesting mix. Like I never would have seen that core. Like it's a little odd to me, but he's a good player. So if he can get a chance on a North American or even European tier one team, um, I think that'd be great for him.
I think also too, because the same idiots that are saying you can't just buy out rosters, right? There's also on the flip side the dum dums who say, well, you can't just, you know, you can't just like, well, of course Cloud9's got to go get ATK because how are you going to go buy a top roster? Like those just aren't available. Well, a month ago, Evil Geniuses wasn't here, or however long ago, right? A month or two ago, Evil Geniuses wasn't even a thing in Counter Strike, and Counter Strike fanboys didn't know who 100 Thieves even were. So don't tell me that it's impossible to go out and buy a top roster. They're out there. It's just how
How
much
would
do you
you
want
have
to
felt
pay?
if Cloud9 bought NRG?
NRG, if Cloud9 went out and bought that roster, first off,
Hmm.
I thought I remember discussing that, right? Like when it first happened, because we didn't even know NRG was a discussion, right?
Yeah.
And we were thinking, like, what's Cloud9 doing then? Like, you're telling me that was a possibility?
Would you have
Complexity
been
said the
fine
same
with that,
thing.
like that being the product then?
Oh, yeah, of course. Because NRG
Okay.
was rising up. You had Tarek on the team, right?
Well,
Former
hell, they got
Cloud9.
number one. They've been the number one ranked team since they've been with EG too. They took
Yeah.
that number one ranking for a period of time there. Yeah, I agree. I think if you were going to go buy a full roster and you're buying a top five roster in the world, that's very different than buying like number 45 in the world or
Yeah.
whatever. I know ATK is like 19. But on the flip side, you have a roster in. I think this is probably um an interesting one to get into because they did the reversal of this, and that would be complexity. Complexity went out and were like, "Hey, we're gonna go get free agents. Doesn't matter what country they're from. Doesn't matter where they currently live geographically. We're just gonna find the five best players that we can possibly get that are willing to commit to our org." And that was an important piece of it. That are willing to commit to our org and build a true like world class team. So complexity went out. They went in initially. They had OBO that he's from the original roster. He was the only remaining player that they kept from the original roster. Jason Lake let the other four go. Blamf was the first initial pickup. He was coming over from Heroic. I think that's a great pickup, a good player. At the time, we were like, oh man, that's the only pickup they just got because they had kept the rest of the roster. And it was like, that's not going to be enough. That's not going to be enough to turn this corner. But they followed it up, and they kept following it up. They went then and got Rush, pulled Rush over onto the team. Rush has been a consistent player for a long time. He's had his ups and downs, but we've seen him perform at a tier one level and perform really well. So I don't think that that's a bad pickup. Poison. Poison is somebody that they took a gamble on, but he's been a top tier prospect now for a long time. Like this is pulling in somebody from the minor leagues into the big leagues, but has star potential written all over him. He's an opper. He's young. You combine, and when we say young, the combined age for this team is 21, but Poison and OBO are like both 16 and like 17 or
Oh,
something like that. Like
Poison's
both.
21.
Okay, Poison's 21. OBO is what, 15 or
I think he
16 years
turned
old?
16 in June.
Yeah, so that's like a baby. I mean, that is a young kid out there. But they're both young players. Like Poison's not coming from some of the top tier like competition in the sense of he played against some top tier, but not consistently. And then the last piece that they just added recently, config. And you talk about potentially finding a diamond in the rough, right? A player that has fallen from grace, still incredibly young at 22 years old, so very much so in the prime of his career still, played with top rosters, um, played in majors, right? He brings veteran experience, was the star player on those teams, and then had his fall from grace. Now, you can contribute that to a lack of work ethic. You can contribute that potentially to the environment he was in, a team that looked like they had no potential, that was looking at selling off. You could say they knew they were not going to be on this roster much longer. So, what kind of motivation would that give him? So, there's all these kind of built in excuses for config. Ultimately, it's up to him to do well. But I think they probably got him at a fairly good deal. And now look, I'm excited to see what complexity can do. Like all of a sudden, I find this to be an intriguing roster after all the fun we did make of how that situation was handled, right? Like I love what Jason Lake is trying to do. I didn't think it was the best way to approach it, but he's in my eyes backed it up to the best of his ability. He went out and tried, like we mentioned
Yeah.
earlier, tried to get Alexi B.
Still not
Didn't hit on
exactly
that.
measuring up from his talk. Like, that still
Well,
isn't, like, when you're saying, a tier 1, call me, not my first
again,
roster.
they had to want to come here was the big thing, right? So, like, yes, he threw it out there that I want any of the best players in the world to give me a call. Well, not that many of them are probably like, I'm living in Europe. I'm playing on a good team right now. If you're a tier 1 player, you're playing on a tier 1 team. Let me move to Dallas, Texas today, and find 4 other international players to play with. So it's a tough spot to put yourself in. It's important that we recognize that he did put himself in that position.
Yeah.
Um, but I think he did a good job creating a formidable roster. I think this roster has a chance, if all the pieces kind of fit here, like a potential top 10 roster on his hands. Um, I think that's not too far fetched considering, a team like NIP is in the top 10, MIBR is teetering in the top 10, Furia, 100 Thieves, like some of these teams, I could kind of see them all getting grouped together and there could be a shuffle right there. I think what's pretty stable is what we have at the top with the Shawless, Evil Geniuses, and Liquid. I know Fanatics in that mix. I'm still curious to see how they do over the long haul here. But I think 5 through 10 is a very interchangeable group, and I say 5 through 10, really, 5 through 20
Oh, no,
right
yeah, I was
now.
going to say 5 through 15 if you wanted to look at serious players.
Yeah, 5 through 15 for sure can all be interchanged, and it wouldn't be shocking. Hell, it did. Avangar was like number 5 not that long ago, if I'm not mistaken, or something around there. So, um, yeah, I'm excited to see what complexity come up with in this terms of just how they do, how they perform. This team has had a little bit of time to play together. I don't know what event they have coming up.
For complexity?
Yeah, for complexity. Do you have it pulled up?
No, I don't think
Kind of
they've.
curious
I
on
mean,
what we're
I
gonna
know they
see.
really have just taken the last thing they even had looks like was back in October. Was ECS Season 8 North America. I mean, obviously with them rebuilding, I think they probably just took the rest of the year off.
Yeah, and that's like those games are with their old team too, anyway.
Right, yeah,
So,
it's not with they haven't
um,
played anything with this new roster for sure.
yeah, so and then I don't see anything upcoming for them, but yeah, it'll be a team to keep an eye on next year because I think they got some good names
And
in
they'll
the
be a
mix.
team that
And
makes the DreamHack circuit, right? Like they're
oh,
going to
for
be
sure.
playing the DreamHacks. They'll definitely be invited there, and they'll
And I
have
think
their
they can
opportunity.
play under the North American banner now. So even though they have more international players, I think they do it like location based. So I think they'll compete in NA, and that'll give them a chance to even potentially qualify for the major with this roster from the NA side.
Yeah. So, like I said, Counter Strike's it's in an exciting stage as far as a scene goes. You know, if it's something that you haven't dabbled in, I know a lot of our listeners don't follow Counter Strike, and they say, that's one of the reasons they love the show is because they don't follow it religiously, but we talk about it from time to time, more than not. Um, Dude, this is a good time to get into, right? There's a lot of new faces getting into it, a lot of old faces trying to break back into it.
And a lot of new content in the game as a whole, right? So even if you're just stepping in as a player now, they have like the battle pass and things of that sort that you can kind of play around with, and they've reduced the price. So yeah, I mean, Counter Strike is one of those games that is just a classic. If you're looking for a good shooter, um, it's one that's worth trying. And Tim's right. Like the new teams that are coming in, it feels like a very healthy time for Counter
Yeah.
Strike. Like the ecosystem in Counter Strike, although crazy, schedules crazy, um, you have majority of the biggest organizations in the world tied to this game, and you can't say that about most others. So I think it's in a very healthy place, and just excited. I'm excited for next year. I think next year for Counter Strike is going to be an amazing year. There's really, the competition is very deep, and we're good at the top too. We got a top heavy group. I think we have very dominant teams, and I think we have a lot of teams that are working their way up. So should be a fun year for Counter Strike.
Definitely. Let's get into some e-news. Before we do, shout out to the Prodigy. Thank you for following on Twitch. Love you. All right, let's get into e-news. Speaking of Counter-Strike, as we always start e-news with, it's been rumored, we've discussed it on the show, but it is official. ESL Brazil confirmed for the next major.
That's pretty awesome. Like Brazil is a breeding ground of Counter-Strike. I mean, it's been so
The fans
big
will
in
be
that
nutty.
country. Oh, they'll be insane. They'll be absolutely insane. And those who survive, God bless you. But it's going to be a crazy environment, Tim. Like Counter-Strike and Brazil go hand in hand. So I'm glad they're getting a chance to experience a major over there.
Yeah, I'm still on the fence if we want to go or not.
It's expensive.
Brazil's more expensive than I thought. When it
to
was
get to
first
Brazil.
rumored, me and Anuj were like, easy peasy. We live in Texas. How far can Brazil
it's
be?
like,
It's South
can't be that
America.
A little
That's-
bit more than we thought.
It's really
so
far.
We'll see. That is a potential
It's
though.
like
But yeah, that'll
below
be a
Mexico.
Cool
Did you guys know Brazil's below Mexico? It's a lot farther than I thought. I didn't think Mexico was so big, I guess. Oh no, when I saw those planes, I was like, oh, 18-hour trip. What?
Like, how did that happen?
What's going
You
on
know
here?
the best part about this though? I believe they're Central Time Zone.
They are. No, there are time zones. So we're going to have, for the first time in forever, like a major that I don't have to wake up at the crack of dawn or stay up till 4 a.m. for. So,
Knowing our like they'll do it during work hours. So
well, yeah,
miss
you
it
definitely
anyway.
know the beginning ones, well, sure. We talked about some MIBR changes, Anuj.
Yeah, Byron replaces Lucas 1 on MIBR. No clue who that is, to be honest with you. I really don't know much about his background at all. Lucas 1 was a recent pickup for MIBR. So, again, they keep doing this revolving door of the fifth player take out Cold from the mix just because he departed on his terms. But, again, we'll see. We've been saying that for so long now with MIBR. We'll see. And it's the same thing here. Like, I don't know what to expect. I don't know what this gives them. I don't know what he adds to the team. So we'll see.
In League of Legends, Bilibili, a Chinese video platform popular with their young audience for its anime-based community content, has secured exclusive broadcasting rights for the annual League of Legends World Championship. Keep in mind, I think this is literally just for the championship. Like, not the championship series, but like straight up Worlds.
The championship game.
Right. It's going to be for roughly 113 million US dollars and will last through 2022. So
Project A better be the best game ever with the money that is getting filtered into them right now. I expect that to be the best FPS I've played in my life based on how much money these guys are getting. Good for them though, man. Securing the bag right there, dude. That is a good day at the office.
a lot for one thing. But you know what? You see that all the time, right? Fox in the Super Bowl and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I guess it's not insane if you got the money. It's not insane. But damn. In Call of Duty, Nadeshot will be returning to the competitive scene as his charity stream thing, whatever, reached $50,000 for Gamers Outreach, and the deal was is if he got to 50, he and some professional, on a professional team, he said, will be joining an actual professional tournament. So there we go. Everyone gets to see what they wanted. He's always said he's going to come back to competitive Call of Duty. I guess it's happening.
That is pretty awesome.
In other news, Dizzy is retiring from Pro Apex, or just the pro gaming scene in general. Of course, he was, I say a kid. I have no idea how old he was, but he seemed like a kid to me. Was a streamer for Apex when Apex really first came out, and was really the first dominant player people saw. He just kind of dominated everything. Was eventually picked up by NRG as a streamer / player. Just kind of fell off a little bit. Some people say stuff is going on with him, so hope the best for him. Maybe taking a step back from doing pro and just focusing on having fun again on the stream works out for him.
Yep.
He is a kid, right? Like he's like 16.
He seems young. I don't know how old he is. I mean, I know he's been.
When he was signed,
he's playing in the professional scene. Like he was known before Apex. Apex is what catapulted him to like the masses. So he's been playing competitively in different games for a little bit of time. But yeah, there was some stuff going on that maybe he was having a tough time and this and that. Whatever it is, again, we wish him all the best, and I'll watch his stream if he keeps dominating. So.
Gears of War, this happened, I believe, Sunday night. Gears of War 5 San Diego Major wrapped up, believe it or not. Anuj and I did watch it. We did watch the finals. Us and all 9,000 people. Reciprocity ended up completing the reverse sweep. So I don't care what game it is. Reverse sweeps are awesome.
It was fun to watch. I enjoyed watching it just because it was an awesome game, Yeah. Like the match we happened to watch, again, with the reverse sweep, watching them shit talk across the aisle the way they did, or really brought back, like, to me, grassroots,
like MLG
esports
days, right?
But I'll be honest with you, Tim. I didn't enjoy watching the game. Like the game itself.
Gears of War is a pretty rough one to watch.
Yeah, like I wasn't having fun watching the game.
Let me tell you what I think of Gears of War. No disrespect for the people who play it competitively. The other day, Twitch had a bug that showed channels or games having 0 viewers for the entire category of that game. Anuj sent me a picture of Gears of War having 0 viewers, and I honestly believed it was true until I realized it was a bug. So that's my take on Gears of War. It was entertaining because the storyline, it's not an easy game to watch. It seems like half the time people, like, if people would just take their time and learn how to aim in that game, I think you could dominate. But these guys just bounce from wall to wall and shoot at people's knees the entire time with a shotgun. Like, I understand there's some skill involved there, but let's just take a breather
I
and
would
aim.
like to see, like, some of the best console FPS players focus on Gears of War and see how dominant the gameplay would be then, because I wasn't overly impressed. Now, I know they're a lot better than me, okay? I'm not saying that they're not. I just feel like it was still...
That's not true. Anuj told me while we were watching this, he goes, I could go pro in a week. Give me to the Texas Major. I could go pro.
Texas Major TCR will probably be in the event.
We'll have our own team, and it will just be us.
Yeah, we don't need
2v5 them. Doesn't matter. Look, there was the old joke back in MLG when I played Halo and Call of Duty that if you wanted to be a professional gamer, go play Gears. Because there were so little teams, and the skill gap between normal dude and pro was so much smaller than in Call of Duty or Halo. It was just... That was the running joke of MLG back in the day, was if you wanted to be a pro, go play Gears. And I almost say that still stands. That's still a funny joke. Still a funny joke. But it was entertaining nonetheless. Like I said, reverse sweep. Loved it. The next majors were also announced. Mexico City and Texas. So that'll be cool. Maybe we'll go see that one at the Arlington Esports Stadium. We'll catch that live. Let's see here. In other... esports coming to the Emmys. The Emmys recently announced that production, right? Like esports production will be now an Emmy category.
Yeah, something like that. I just know that it's going to be part of the Emmys, which that's pretty cool just to have a category in itself.
Yeah,
It's
I know some people were making fun of it on Twitter and stuff. Like, guys, come on.
getting recognized on the world stage. Like
Right, like
that's a good thing.
let's stop trying to live in a bubble here, all right? It's the freaking Emmys. It's pretty badass, and I can almost guarantee you that it was League of Legends Worlds that tipped this over, right? Like they saw that opening ceremony and said, "My God, these people deserve something. Like this has to be looked at."
Yeah, from a production standpoint, but I think just from an esports standpoint, although we don't discuss it and we don't feel like it's a true esport, I think Fortnite also helped catapult it just into the main stage
True.
of being awareness, right? Like people's eyes then started peering over into esports
Yeah.
because Counter-Strike's been there forever. We know a lot of these games have been around forever, but a lot of it has now gone mainstream with Fortnite. And you're right, like the League of Legends, then the production value and all that is through the roof, and they show some of that stuff even on national news. But yeah, I mean, this last year for esports was very big, and I think it's truly an honor to be, involved with a
I don't think they're just stroking esports for the sake of it being esports. They do Emmys for traditional sports too. So
yeah, the Emmys don't need esports at all. If they're not doing this out of pity, they're doing it because they feel like it belongs,
Yeah.
and so we should be proud of that.
they do a lot. There's Emmys for a lot of things that they don't show on TV. Like people think Emmys just for TV, like big stuff. But
Yeah, yeah.
it goes down. They have quite a bit of little stuff too. Other than that, Brooklyn Nets owner. That's kind of difficult to say.
Joseph Tsai, TSAI, Tsai. I think it's Tsai. T is silent.
Yeah, sure, man.
Joseph Tsai, owner of the Brooklyn Nets, co-founder of the Alibaba Group. They invested 10 million into G2. So G2 climbing up the
Congratulations to
ranks. They
G2.
might have moved up a spot or two on that valuation chart after this.
Congratulations, G2. Also announced was a slew of DreamHack dates for 2020. The only one we care about, though, DreamHack Dallas, the one we go to, May 22nd through the 24th, which is Memorial Day weekend, which is literally the worst weekend they could have picked. So thank you so much, DreamHack. Yet again, European terrorists who don't look at an American holiday calendar. Thank you. Thank you.
I love it because I know I could be there this year. So that's what I'm excited about. Is I know I am in town this year, 100%. So
And I'm still on the fence.
PCR will be represented.
We will have one
the
person
other.
there at least.
Yeah.
It was very tough. So this was literally announced, right? And as the words were about to come out of my mouth to tell my wife, babe, they announced DreamHack. It's Memorial Day weekend. She cut me off and said, my best friend's getting engaged, and I'm going to go to the engagement party in LA. It's Memorial Day weekend. And I was like,
Nice,
you
babe,
gonna
nice.
take the baby? You gonna take the baby to that engagement party? You know? So I'm like,
To
and I
bring the
even
baby to DreamHack, dude.
I even said, I was like, well, can't your mom watch him that weekend? And she's like, are you serious? I was like, yes. Yeah, I sort of am. It's for
Tim's
the
about
show.
to relocate his parents from Florida to Dallas
I will,
just for this
dude.
moment.
I will. She said, she's like, why don't your mom just come in town? I was like, you really want me to ask my parents to come in town just so then I could go spend the weekend not with them? Like, hey, mom, hey, dad, here's my kid. All right, I'm going to go to DreamHack
Look,
now.
Her parents need to step up and be team players here
For
and
the show.
understand
It's for
what's
the
ahead
show.
of us. For the show.
Do they want this empire to build itself? Come on. Bricks have to be laid. That's at DreamHack
Damn, I was about to
Dallas.
use that same analogy. We are on the same page, Tim.
Bro.
We were right. I was waiting for you to stop talking to drop that little nugget on you, and you threw it out. So well done.
Co-host, man. No, look. I'm gonna try my damnedest to be there. So look at that DreamHack calendar, folks. If you're gonna be at DreamHack Dallas, hit us up because at least one of us will be there. Hopefully, two, but we'll see.
Hopefully too.
We'll see. Also, like, pour salt in the wound. Like, they live in LA, my wife's best friends, and they're going to like rent a cabin in San Diego, and then they're gonna get like box seats to a Dodgers game. I'm like, what the hell? What the hell is this? I'll go. Look, if my choice is either this or we can just bring the kit, I'll go there with you.
I'll bring the kid. At least go do something.
Right? Like, jeez, boxing at a Dodgers game. That seems kind of legit.
Seems kind of bougie. I like it.
I know, right? All right. Well, that just about does it though for this episode of the Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast. Thank you, Philly Esports, for following, The Prodigy following, Ginger Slayer for following, Tavik, you followed the other day. I don't know if I ever gave you a shout out. Thank you. Everyone in chat, thank you. Love you. Go ahead and follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring. If you listen on iTunes or anything else, go ahead and leave us a comment or review, whatever you got to do there. Make sure the show lives on into perpetuity. Tell your family, tell your friends. Create a listen bot to listen to us. I don't really care. Just don't tell me about it. My hands are wiped clean from it. That's how that works. Yeah, we will be back
Saturday.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh. Hold up. Anuj brings up a good point. Saturday, we will be doing our first ever TCR's casting couch. So we will be at 11 a.m. Central Time, better known as the start of Blast Pro Series final between Astralis and Team Liquid, most likely. We will be casting that match. We'll be talking about it live as it's going on our stream. So if that's something you're interested in, follow us on Twitch, Mixer, YouTube, or whatever. You can follow us on Twitter too, at the Center Ring. That will tell you everything that you need to know as well from there. But yeah, so we'll be doing that. The stream itself will just be us talking. Not to downplay that, it will be fun. We just can't actually stream the match because, people pay $113 million to stream matches nowadays. So clearly they're not going to let us do that. So either way, it will be fun though. We'll have fun with it. So yes, that will be this Saturday, 11 a.m., just at the start of the Blast Pro Series Finals. So just keep an eye on Twitter or our Discord. We'll also post it there when we go live. The other point I was going to make, and maybe we'll talk about it on Saturday in the live stream, Christmas is coming up here in the States and just anywhere else in the world. Our schedules are always whack this time of year, so just keep an eye on Twitter and Discord on when we're going to do another episode. I think we can squeeze one in Sunday night for Monday. I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. So, but that's for later. This is now. Thank you again so much for listening. If you skipped all the way through or if you listened to the whole darn thing, thank you so much. Locus in chat. Hello. Sorry, sir. The show's ending, but you can stick around for some post-show chat. I'm Tim for Anuj. We'll see ya.